Greetings, guys. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Monette. I am a professional intuitive empath, as well as a chef and an author and an all-around life path 3. And today I kind of want to take a little bit of a more serious tone and get into what the title's about. And that is Wendy Williams, It Is Time to Get Real. Now, if you haven't been caught up, there has been a whole hullabaloo happening with our favorite gossip queen, Miss Wendy Williams, and previous shock jock. I mean, she really did make history with what she's done. Now, whether you like it or you don't, whether you support or endorse her or not, what you have to understand about Wendy Williams from my empathetic perspective is that she is absolutely on her path. So if you don't approve, that's okay. You don't have to, because she's living her truth. As a Cancer, she is very adept at being catty. Let's just say it like that. Meaning Cancer women are renowned for their sharp, acerbic tongue. They know how to cut and they know how to observe, and they don't really like a lot of people too close to them. A lot of those traits we're watching play out with Wendy Williams, and we have watched it play out with her over the years, meaning she's really open, ready, and even excited to discuss everybody else's business. But when it comes to her own, she's quite reticent, and she holds back, and she doesn't spill her own tea, as we say now. So that's what we're dealing with. Now, the thing that's going on that has shifted this, because she's usually able to hide this, we've had a couple things happen. Remember the blood moon and the eclipse and all that stuff that happened as we were entering, I think it was in February. But what happened was, actually the end of January, forgive me here guys on the dates, I'll try to correct that if I can. But what happened there is that was a spotlight on relationships. One of the aspects that was a spotlight on relationships. So what it did was it held a magnifying glass to any relationship you're dealing with, and it said, you can look at this and examine it, and you can fix what's broken, or this is going to this is something that is going to have to leave your life. So those are the options that we were given, and I will tell you, I have noticed it with my clients, as many of their relationships have not disintegrated, but definitely been held up to the light for examination. So with Wendy Williams, she is not exempt. Now, Wendy Williams is a Cancer, and that means she has that hard exterior, if we're being quite literal about the mascot for her sign being the crab, right? So that exoskeleton, but inside, she is soft. And if you ever watch her show or have ever heard her speak, she speaks of that often, where she says, I am soft and pink inside. She also mentions liking a dominant kind of roughneck, her words, more aggressive alpha male. And one of the stories that caught my attention some years ago was that Wendy was talking about the first time that her mother met her husband, or her husband met her mother. And she said she went home and they were fine, and then she was in the living room and mother was in the kitchen with Kevin Hunter, her husband. And the mother, Wendy was around the corner and overheard this, but the mother was saying to Kevin, you should pull up your pants, as mothers will do. And Kevin kind of bristled and said, no, I kind of like my pants where they are, and they're staying here. Now, Wendy saw that as a sign of attraction, and she was doing the mating dance, and she was like, oh, I knew he was for me when he kind of told my mother off. Ding. Is anybody paying attention to these red flags? That was a sign that this person is going to be resistant to not just being in line with society, because we don't all have to be cookie cutters, but to any kind of direction, even if it's just well-meaning. She liked it. I remember hearing that story thinking, that says a lot about his energy in the way that he dealt or disrespected your mother. Now, she's been dealing with a lot of things lately where there are alleged reports of abuse from his mother, from other people around them, from staff. All of this is alleged, guys. Wendy's not taking down my channel, my little channel. She's not taking it down. But this is all alleged. But here's the deal. Wendy, it's time to get real. So now we've got you caught up. Let's talk about what's going on with her as a Cancer going through this Mercury retrograde in Pisces. So because she is already a sensitive water sign and she is very powerfully connected to her emotions, She knows exactly how she feels and how broken she has felt while she's been going through this transition of this alleged abuse and alleged baby's mother and all of the alleged things that we have allegedly seen. If you remember, the Daily Mail spent a lot of time following the alleged baby's mother for about a year and documenting an entire household that her husband had allegedly purchased for this baby's mother just a few miles down the street from their house. Talk about a slap in the face. So we can only imagine, as women and men and empaths and feelers, what Wendy was going through in that situation. But here's the deal with this retrograde. It means that she's going to be particularly closed off to other people's views and ideas and opinions about what's going on in her life, meaning she's going to be that crab in the shell who's very self-protective. When you're dealing with cancers and you need to approach or confront them, you can't do it directly. That is their nature without a retrograde, meaning that if you look at a crab on a beach and you watch how it scuttles to the side, it never directly attacks anything or directly gets into a confrontation. It will fight and it will protect itself, but it wants to kind of scuttle away to the side. So if anybody's going to get through to Wendy, it's going to be people that are already involved in her heart, like her son. A word from him could shift her whole perspective. But I have a feeling he's been socialized into the alleged abuse as well. So I don't know what stance he's taking there. What I will tell you too, that is important for Wendy to do is to make sure during this time she is pretending at least to hear what her loved ones are saying around her. That's not just loved ones, that's her staff, that's people that care about her, that's her managers, that besides her husband. She's going through this huge transition and she's desperately trying to hold on because for Cancer, everything is about home. That's why she says, I love Jersey and I live out in the suburbs and that makes me feel safe and comfortable because Cancers like to nest and have their cave and hide away and have their great food. And if we know Wendy, we know that that is who she is. She's told us over and over. But aside from that, what I feel is happening here and what I've been watching this whole thing unfold is that she is absolutely in fear of this person. Allegedly, she's in fear of her husband because I have felt from him this incredibly dark energy. He fashions himself allegedly like a mafioso person. This is just conjecture. This is my feelings and emotions about it as an empath. He finds himself to be wanting to be Frank White. If you've ever watched that movie, he wants to be a gangster and a mobster that makes him feel valued and validated. And Wendy was very attracted to it. And allegedly, per my opinion as an empath and insight, they have lived quite a life with a lot of experiences. And so she knows just what her husband is allegedly capable of. And that's why you see her recoiling back into this marriage, presenting us with her ring, telling us how happy she is. It's posturing because she was broken. And it was clear to see for anybody with two eyes. You don't have to be a psychic or an empath to understand that. I know about abuse. I've counseled people. I've seen it up close and personal. And I have experienced it myself. Wendy is in a deep state of denial. And this retrograde, even though she's presenting a strong face and a strong, facade, it is just that. It is a facade. She is posturing, folks. And this house of cards will come crumbling down. The way that I feel about it is we have about a year and a half before we come to an ultimate coming to a head, because what was begun with that eclipse, because eclipses end things, will be finished, and they can go for up to 6 months to a year. We can be feeling the effects of an eclipse. Wendy will have to deal with this, and not in the way that we all would like, where she's chatting with us from her purple chair, but this is her real life, and everything is about to change, and it's going to get her ready for the Saturn return. She's got a few years before she gets into that second Saturn return, but this energy is about getting her ready to transition so that she can live the second half of her life understanding that she deserves more than the alleged abuse that has been foisted upon her. It's all she knows. As a former addict, she feels stuck. That's another thing that came through to me. And I remember watching her talk about Mary J. Blige and her divorce and her advising her to not be silly and not to give away a half of her money. Cancers love security and home. That financial grounding is a huge motivation for Wendy to stay in this marriage, no matter how toxic it is. So what we can do is send our energy to her that she sees clearly, because the transition from this marriage is inevitable, whether by tragedy or by her own will and might. And she is so strong, so much stronger than she knows. All right, guys, thank you for joining me today. Tell me what you think, what you feel as you've been watching this, if you've been watching it, and come back and we'll continue to evolve together.